Terence "Bud" Crawford just made the case, again, that he's not only the best fighter of this generation, but one of the greatest boxers of all time. And naturally, the first question is, who's next? If Ilia Topuria has any say, it's him. The newly minted UFC lightweight champion has been name-dropping Crawford, which is bold. Admirable even, but for the sake of Topuria's health? The tale of the tape reads like a warning sign. Topuria's only real advantage is youth, because Crawford is bigger, longer, sharper, and infinitely more experienced. And please don't try to argue that Topuria is a better puncher than a professional boxer. In MMA, Topuria is a knockout artist, but his striking works because his opponents have so many other threats to consider. He sets traps with kicks, takedowns, and that claustrophobic cage. Remove those tools, stick him in boxing gloves, and he's suddenly very mortal. Meanwhile, Crawford is the definition of a finisher. He's one of the most clinical closers boxing has ever seen. And he doesn't even need one-punch power when he can pile on accuracy, volume, and timing until you're drowning. And when Bud smells blood, the feeding frenzy begins. But this shark doesn't even need to finish you. Just revisit Crawford's latest masterpiece. 12 rounds against Canelo Alvarez. This is the same Canelo who held undisputed titles 2 weight classes above Bud's last fight, and 3 divisions up from where Crawford reigned as the welterweight king. Canelo has the resume of an entire Hall of Fame museum. Multiple belts, multiple eras, victories over a who's who of the past decade. Crawford didn't just beat him, he schooled him for 12 rounds, without trouble, without doubt, just surgical domination. So yes, Topuria can throw leather, but he's not Canelo, not in size and definitely not in skill. Crawford and Topuria's names shouldn't even be in the same conversation, and yet somehow, here we are. Because we've seen this sort of talk before. Mayweather versus McGregor, a circus of a super fight between the best boxer alive and the UFC's resident megastar. It was absurd, historic, and most importantly, wildly lucrative, which is why it could definitely tempt both Crawford and Topuria. Especially Crawford though. He's near the tail end of his career. For years, the sport's best ducked him, costing him both legacy-defining fights and mega paydays. If there's a chance to finally cash in, he'd be crazy not to consider it. The problem? Floyd and Conor were hype factories. They sold fights with sound bites as much as fists. Topuria, for all his menace, isn't exactly McGregor on a microphone, and Crawford doesn't sell. In fact, he actively avoids selling. But the biggest hurdle of all? Topuria is beholden to the UFC CEO, Dana White. Uncle Dana only allowed McGregor's Mayweather crossover because the UFC got filthy rich in the process. Topuria doesn't bring that kind of payday, at least not yet. But White did just dip his toes into the world of boxing, and we can safely assume Crawford just made White and the UFC and TKO and Turkey Al-Sheikh and Saudi Arabia a boatload of money. So will Crawford versus Topuria happen? Probably not. Should it happen? Absolutely not. But in combat sports, logic is usually the first casualty when money is involved. And sometimes, bad ideas are exactly the ones that get made. Conor McGregor is certain his UFC return will land on the White House card. And he's named his opponent, Michael Chandler. Finally. And the long-teased fight could be set for America's biggest birthday bash. Ever since the POTUS in orange paint announced the UFC lawn party for America's 250th, fighters have been tripping over themselves to headline. While he's trying to jump to the front of the queue, McGregor hasn't fought since July of 2021, when Dustin Poirier snapped his leg in their trilogy fight at UFC 264. The Irishman's last win? A 40-second blitz of Donald Cerrone in January 2020. Yes, it's been that long. The McGregor-Chandler saga has been brewing since 2023, when they filmed The Ultimate Fighter Season 31. The two coaches were booked to clash at UFC 303 in June of 2024, but McGregor withdrew just a few weeks out with a broken pinky toe. Instead of rescheduling, McGregor limped his way into a failed political career, multiple legal dramas, and a conviction for a 2018 sexual assault case. Somehow, that whole dumpster fire hasn't dimmed the enthusiasm of McGregor or UFC CEO Dana White, with both men keen on his comeback fight being part of the historic White House card in June of 2026. "I'm on it," declared McGregor. "I am. This is me. Michael Chandler? Michael Chandler and myself have done the show The Ultimate Fighter. We've had a good back and forth. He's a good tough guy, and the Mac is excited to be back for sure." Despite all of that malarkey, Chandler doesn't seem worried about McGregor's reliability at all. In fact, he's ignoring it completely. "Conor and I, we have some history," confirmed Chandler. "We did The Ultimate Fighter, 12 weeks on ESPN. I'm the opponent that he wants, he's the opponent that I want, and it seems like it's a heck of the main event for the UFC White House." There's competition for the White House main event slot though. Jon Jones wants in, and some believe he's worth the risk. The former light heavyweight king turned heavyweight champion is widely considered the UFC's GOAT, except his trophy room comes with an elephant-sized amount of controversy in the corner. That's why Dana White isn't keen. In short, the UFC boss believes Jones can't be trusted to make it to fight night. PED busts, arrests, failed negotiations. Jones has left behind a trail of missed opportunities and burned bridges as far as the eye can see. Unlike White though, Jones' longtime bitter rival and current UFC color commentator Daniel Cormier sees things a little differently. And it's not just because Jones is an American. Still, Cormier isn't stupid. DC thinks strict contractual terms need to be in place, such as a $1 million fine for legal trouble, no-shows, cold feet, etc., etc. In other words, safeguards, because that's what you need when doing a deal with the devil. Sorry, Jon Jones. I think that the White House card deserves the chance for that to happen. Because hey, we have no American guys in the top 10 of the pound for pound since Jon Jones retired. That's crazy, reasoned DC. Come on, boss. It's me asking you to give Jon Jones a chance. Cormier might want to first ask Jones if the newly crowned heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall, who would be his likely opponent, would be an easy victory. Jones already delayed that bout for as long as possible and then retired rather than face the Englishman. Perhaps a July 4th England vs America scrap isn't such a good idea. But then again, there's a very good chance that Trump has no idea what Independence Day is all about. So have at it. Moving away from the White House, Justin Gaethje is unhappy with the UFC's matchmaking. He believes he's earned a lightweight title shot, and fellow UFC fighter Michael Chandler agrees. Gaethje's gripe is that he did the UFC a solid by defending his BMF belt against Max Holloway at UFC 300. Sure, he got knocked out, but it was in yet another Fight of the Year contender. And then he rebounded with a win over the dangerous late replacement opponent, Rafael Fiziev, only to then watch Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira fight for the vacant title and not him, before Paddy Pimblett leapfrogged him to square off with Topuria. For Chiesa, Gaethje's resume speaks for itself. Two-time Fight of the Year winner, two-time Fight of the Year nominee, Knockout of the Year nominee, 14 post-fight bonuses. This is how you earn a title fight, especially when you're turning 37 in 2 months. You know what? Just give the guy the fight. He earned it. He has earned it in blood, said Chiesa. He has given us things he will never get back through the course of him having this goal of entertaining us fans. So just give him the fight. And in a twist no one saw coming, Ronda Rousey is back in the gym, and the first ever women's entrance into the UFC Hall of Fame is looking sharp. The original women's UFC megastar hasn't fought since Amanda Nunes smoked her in 48 seconds at UFC 207 back in 2016. Since then, it's been WWE, kids, books, and comic books. But now at 38 and turning 39 in February, Rowdy Ronda looks hungry again. She took to the socials with a video comparison of her training and wrote, "From 8 weeks after having a baby and 8 years of stepping away from MMA to 8 months postpartum and finding my love for it again. The first clip is my first session working with AJ Matthews. I was super self-conscious, embarrassed of how much I regressed, and honestly trying my very best not to pee my pants throwing punches so soon after having baby Pau. Second clip was yesterday. I've never laughed or smiled so much on the mat as I do these days. The last 6 months have been an absolute blast. Feels like I have so much left to grow, and without the weight of the world on my shoulders, nothing is holding me back. What we learn with pleasure, we never forget. Alfred Mercier.
Thanks for watching. And remember, if you want more fight sports in your life, just hit the subscribe button.